Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel where today we're going to be talking about CAS and the big CAS project. I had briefly mentioned this in another video, but in this one we're going to be taking a deeper dive into what CAS is about and what to do to prepare for it. Now you might be wondering, what is the purpose of CAS? CAS is kind of to support you and to make sure that you are becoming more and more of the type of person that the IB profile wants you to be. CAS is kind of there to make sure you're not sitting in your basement all day doing homework and you're actually going out into the world and making a difference, because that's what IB wants. They want people who go through their program to have big implications for the world around them and to make you be a better person, because the IB program sees the younger generation as the key to like peace and solving all of these big problems by making sure that young people are educated and that they can have the skills to take everything that they learn and to make the world a better place. Now, to be able to successfully complete CAS, you have to engage in regular experiences or volunteer work kind of that fit into the CAS acronym, which stands for creativity, activity, and service. You have to meet the 7 learning outcomes that we'll talk about later, and you have to complete a CAS project, like a big project with at least one other person. A big part of CAS also is the reflections, and the reflections are kind of the IB program's way to grade or keep track of how much you're actually doing by you reflecting on the things that you do out for CAS, and you come back and reflect on them. They can then tell like, oh, this person's actually doing this, or oh, this person's actually doing that, along with like a written like piece of paper that basically says you were there doing those things from a supervisor or whatever you were doing. But we'll also talk about that later in the video. CAS can be broken up into 3 strands. The first one we're going to start with is creativity. So with this, you want to be doing something that requires creative skills, but it's also something that is very passionate so that way you don't get bored of it. A lot of things that you do or might already be doing might fall under the creative strand. Some things could be like cooking. You could be cooking like, I don't know, at literally anything. You could do arts and crafts. You could write. You could make like little short films. You could do digital design like logo design or thumbnail design for videos or anything like that. The creativity aspect and strand of CAS kind of is a way to explore things that you might have never done before, like to try new things or try to learn a new skill or anything really like that. The next strand of CAS after creativity is activity. Activity is something that you have to do like physically. This could be like going to the gym, playing sports, swimming, something that gets you active and moving, and it's supposed to promote a healthy lifestyle. This is kind of an easy one to tick off if you play any sports, but it'll only count towards your CAS like credit and count towards the CAS aspect of IB if it actually challenges you. For example, you cannot just put down, oh, I play volleyball, and then every time you go to practice, you like, that's it. It can be different for everybody. Example, for me, I could try and learn a sport that I haven't like done professionally, like, or not professionally, but played in like club before, like snowboarding, for example. There are other kids in my school who are really good at snowboarding, so they would have to try and do like learn a new trick in snowboarding that's super hard for them. But for me, if I were to do snowboarding, I would just have to learn the basics. It kind of just depends on where your skill level is in that sport or activity. Dance is another one that I see people use for their CAS hours a lot, as it's kind of, there's always like a new move to learn or something like that. And camping can also count towards CAS. If you've never been camping before and you want to give it a try, maybe with like your parents or someone like that, then yeah, that would also be great for CAS. Now the last strand of CAS is service. Service is supposed to be something that engages with your community and something that requires like collaborative effort, like volunteering at soup kitchens or homeless shelters, or there are plenty of other ways to do that. Maybe at like a library, reading books to kids, and even something as simple as like if you're on like a committee that does fundraising, that would have like problem solving, and you have to take initiative, and there's decision making involved with that, and that would be a service that's responding to a need in a community. That's kind of what the service part of CAS is about. A lot of the stuff that you do already probably will count towards CAS unless you literally straight from school, you come home, you do homework, and you eat and go to sleep. There are a lot of things that you already do are going to be able to count towards CAS. Now, as I said before, for these things to count, you have to have supervisors, and your supervisors have to write reviews. The whole point is to be able to go out into the actual world and apply and learn new things. So having a supervisor there is kind of someone who's going to vouch for you to say, yeah, they actually did this. And though some things that you could do, like going to the gym for activity, you can't really have a supervisor for, there are options around that. So for if you're doing something like going to the gym, you have to create like a detailed schedule of what you're going to do, what you're trying to improve on, and why you're doing it. And you have to upload that with your reflection for it to count towards CAS. But you can't do this for like all of your CAS like experiences. That's what they call them. For all your CAS experiences, you're only allowed to do this once for one thing. So that could be going to the gym, or maybe you want to well, there are a bunch of things that might not require a supervisor. When writing reflections, you really want to talk about how you feel and how that activity made you feel, and what value you took out of doing that activity. That's kind of leads again to why they're making you do this, so that way you get something out of having all of these experiences and doing all of these things. You actually get something out of it that you can take with you in life to keep moving forward into whatever you do after high school. If you're wondering what some sample reflections look like, if you are in the IB program and you have been given a CAS guide, there are a bunch of them in the CAS guide, like at the bottom towards the PDF on page 5, that can really help you if you're kind of getting stuck on writing a reflection. The reflections are kind of like your evidence that you actually did it, and it's important to have evidence so this will actually count towards CAS. Describing what happened in detail that day and expressing your feelings about how you felt while you were doing it, and really picking apart the value and trying to understand what that meant to you and the value that was given to you when you did it, is something that you should be emphasizing in your reflections when you go and write them. Now let's talk about the big project that you have to do in CAS. In CAS, there are 5 stages that you will go through when designing and going through your big CAS project. Number 1 is called investigation. Number 2 is preparation. Number 3 is action, then reflection, then demonstration. In the first stage, you're going to identify like what you're good at, what you're bad at, something that you can grow in, and find something that you can do that can apply to one or more of the CAS strands that we talked about before: creativity, action, or activity, and service. Your project has to have at least one or more of these CAS strands in whatever you do. So if, for example, you want to run a fitness class, for example, for your big CAS project, you're going to have to plan that out and get like everything in order, and then when you complete it, those would count towards activity and service, because you would be doing like something physical, like whatever you do in the fitness class, whether that's just like on one of the bikes, or you're lifting weights or plyometrics or something like that, and it would be a service because you're providing this service in your community that anybody can come to. One good example of a CAS project that I heard of that some IB students did last year was that in my province, Nova Scotia, we had some really bad wildfires. So they held like a run to raise, they had like a run, like a 5K run to raise money for people who were affected by the wildfires. So you can see from this example, yes, there are obviously many other things that were going on to support people who were being affected by the wildfires, but what they were doing was specific enough that it counted towards CAS because it was an original idea. No one else was holding runs to help with the fires. Your CAS project has to be original. It can't be something done before. Not like before, but by from past students, but like I don't know, like a soup kitchen, for example. Your city probably has a soup kitchen. So if you were to do a soup kitchen, that would not count towards CAS because that's a need that's already being met by someone else. In case you were just doing like the other strands just because you had to, this one should be something you actually care about because you have to spend at least a month on it, doing it, planning it, prepping it, and then actually doing it. And then on top of that, it's going to take a lot of work. I know that sometimes you'll take courses in IB just so you don't have to do them in uni, but this CAS project, this entire CAS thing actually should be something that you're doing that you actually care about doing. You should not be doing, if you hate swimming, do not go and swim because you have a pool next to you and you think it's going to be easy. If you do something you like, you're going to be more engaged with it and you will actually get something out of it, which then will make your reflections more authentic. Because trust me, they can tell when someone is faking reflection just to be able to get to meet the outcomes in CAS. Do not skip out on evidence for your project. You need to be recording everything that you do and you need to be finding ways to show that you're actually doing these things, whether that be coming up with a plan or whether that be you recording like you going somewhere and doing something and kind of like having little videos of that, if that's like legal in your city or country or whatever. It's important to have evidence at every stage and to have evidence of when something like really important comes up to be able to then put into your reflections. No matter what you do in CAS, you cannot do something that is going to be divisive or that is going to be coercive to push someone into a certain group. For example, if you were to volunteer for someone running in like politics, right? You can't like force people to go and vote for the person that you are volunteering under. Or if it's something religious, like you're trying to, I don't know, hold a place for maybe like a faith that is not very represented in your area, but you know that a lot of people are looking for a place to worship, you can hold a space for people to worship in, but you can't then like coerce people to come to your place of worship where you're holding like worship and sermons and things like that just to get a good CAS mark because that does not count. Before a couple years ago, I think it might have been like 5 years ago, you weren't allowed to do anything religious or political at all. But IB has now realized that like the purpose of all of like the projects is to keep people diversified by going into their community, which is local, which is a part of who they are. And religion and politics is inevitably a part of who you're going to be when you get older. Some things that can help you in doing CAS is integrating stuff into your schedule and planning ahead, like axing what days you're able to come to the go to volunteer and then planning those days in advance. You want to keep all of your experiences diversified. Don't stick to just creativity because you're good at drawing or activity because you play sports and that's just like something easy for you to do. You want to diversify yourself in all three of the CAS strands: creativity, activity, and service, to be able to get the highest grade possible. Another tip would be to consider ethics and other things when doing your CAS projects, and when you're thinking about them, make sure to put that you were thinking about the ethics of whatever you were doing in your reflections. You don't have to put it every time, maybe just for your big project or for a couple of reflections, but it's important to realize the ethics of the situation and what you're doing when you're coming up with something or participating in something. I know some of you might be busy with sports and like other things that really matter a lot to you, but even just like an hour of doing anything that would relate to CAS would be good. In the document that I got, even 1 hour a week until you have to start doing your CAS project is more than enough for you to get like a good grade in CAS. But if you really want to do well, you have to make sure that you're hitting the 7 learning outcomes. These are identifying your strengths, your weaknesses, and where you need to grow, the challenges that you're going through, and the new skills that you're learning, showing a lot of commitment to what you're doing and you are understanding the value that you're getting out of it, working collaboratively with whoever, the people that you're volunteering with or the friends that you're doing your group project with, and you want to be able to recognize the widespread significance of what you're doing, right? Like, yes, you're just putting soup in like a bowl for someone and you're just doing that on repeat and it might not seem like much, but for some people that's all they eat that day, you know? And it's important to realize the value that you're giving to them. And you'll see this when you give people these stuff, when you're helping people, when you're going out and doing your CAS project, you will understand the way that you're making people feel. So the best way to get a good grade in CAS is to actually do it and to try and have as big as an impact as possible. And by big, I don't mean like scale big, like affecting the most people, but big as in having the most meaning. Even if it's just affecting like 5, 6, or 10, 20 people, that's still, but you're giving those people a lot of meaning by what you're doing. That is great. I hope you guys like the background change. My old one was pretty busy because it's actually just right over there. I kind of just twisted my computer a little bit. But the old one was really busy because I have bikes and toilet paper and just a bunch of stuff. Like your average, just throw it in the garage if you don't want to keep it upstairs. Yeah. But yeah, if you have anything that you are struggling with in CAS, let me know in the comments. I recommend the Reddit if you need like seasoned experience. As you probably could see from my YouTube channel, I'm just going through like CAS like right now, and I didn't really pay attention when they were teaching it to me. So I thought it would be the best way to like go over it is to make a video about it to completely understand it. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for all the love. Goodbye.